What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of UFC action. Happy Tuesday, a special day early stream. I have an awesome guest today. We are going to be talking about UFC Vegas 79. We've got Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz Gamrot, 155-pound main event, potentially 5 rounds at the Apex. Finally back in the UFC Apex for the next couple of cards, actually. So this will wrap up a 17-week stretch of consecutive UFC fights. We get a break next week, then we're right back at the Apex for UFC Vegas 80 and 81, I believe. So can't wait to talk about all 11 fights with my guest today. It's somebody who I've done streams with before with my guy Johnny and Cody in their pre-fight streams. But first time on my channel, I've got the very talented Tyler from 138 MMA. And actually, he's going the extra mile and reporting live from a hotel room. He's on a business trip, and he's actually going to spend time with us breaking down this card. So very grateful for him. He does a great job on his channel, 138 MMA. You can find that in the description, along with his Patreon as well. Really in-depth breakdowns, and this guy is not just talking about fights on YouTube. He actually practices what he preaches. He's a combat sports expert in all senses. Very good kickboxer and former fighter as well. So I can't wait to break this down with Tyler, 138 MMA. What's going on, my friend?
What is up, brother? Yeah, from the hotel room. We're at the lovely Hyatt, so that's always nice. It's a good spot. Just gonna have to go over these fights. So before I left, I recorded my Contender Series stuff and I recorded my Bellator stuff. But I didn't get a chance to record my USC card breakdown. So everybody's getting my first opinions here tonight on this live stream. This very live stream is going to count as my full card breakdown this week because I just won't be able to record it. I won't be home.
Yeah, it's going to count as mine, too. I didn't do one either. So we're doing it a day early. We can just do it together. You almost look out of place, almost naked without a whiteboard. Did you bring a whiteboard with you to the hotel room?
Dude, I was actually like, if I had a whiteboard here, I would do a full card video, but I don't have a whiteboard. And,
just right on the wall.
It's not right.
It's a Hyatt, They'll clean it up.
That's right. They got maybe I could just write on a window or something.
Yeah, man. So what are your thoughts on this card in general? I love the main event for this card. I love the co-main event with Bryce Mitchell and Dan Ige. Then it starts getting weird. It's almost like they're trying to do that thing at the end of the year where they just throw fighters together that have to get fights on, their record before the year ends. There's a lot of short notice replacements, some fighters on really long losing streaks going against one another. But I think it's one of these cards that's going to fly under the radar as far as unexpected results, potential upsets, and it might be kind of chaotic. But what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, there's definitely going to be some fun fights. There's a couple of them that I'm eyeballing in particular. The Ige Mitchell fight should be top tier. The Brian Battle fight has the makings to be very good, depending on who's winning, and depending on how they're winning, I guess. So I do like that one as well. There's a couple of them that are total stinkers though, so I'm with you on that. Like Vidal versus Rendon is not a fight that I'm looking forward to really, but whatever.
At least the card ramps up. The card it kind of ramps up into excitement level as each fight progresses through this.
Yeah. When you put it that way, you're kind of right. It kind of does. Ramos and Jourdain, that's a great fight.
Yeah, two really flashy guys that will be going at it in the featherweights. I like that one. But as far as money lines go, I'm looking at a bunch of they almost seem like they're right on point. So we're going to try to find some spots where maybe we see the sports books with the wrong price tag. But I'm going to definitely need your help because I don't have a whole lot of hot takes on this card. But before we can get started on that, we can shout out the chat. We do have our guy Free UFC Bets and Picks in the chat. What's going on, my dude? Everybody go check out his Instagram. He drops awesome content there. YouTube channel as well. And he's a bare knuckle king as far as the betting goes. So make sure you check out his content. We got Zach Johnson saying 2 of the baddest real fight picks in the building. I'm here instead of being with my fiance. My emotions are for you guys, dude. I'm flattered by that. And how can you not be? Look at Tyler's great smile, dude. That's got to rival your fiance's. Don't let her know I said that. We got our guy Any Action Sportscast, Any Action Effie in the building. Pumped for this one. 2 of the best guys out there. You're one of the best guys out there, Effie. Hope you enjoyed the fights being there live last weekend. How'd you do on that card, Tyler?
Yeah, that was my first poor card since February. So it was bad. I think I got 6 picks right.
That's a good.
And then I guess everybody missed on 2 of them because nobody picked draw or no contest. But
right, absolutely, yeah. Last week was the only time. Like I got, I've been so close the past couple. There was one where I got like every pick right except for Bahamondes. I remember the end of last year, I got every pick right on the card except for Jared Gordon and Patty Pimblett, which was a real knife in the heart. But this one, I got every pick right. Was able to get that full card parlay because of that no contest in the draw. It was just a push on both.
Just pushed, yep.
Yeah, I was able to make some change off of that one. We got Kristen in the chat saying hi, Patrick, Tyler, and chat. Good to see you, Kristen. And yeah, Zach Johnson is spitting the facts here. He's got a very good channel. Make sure you do sub to his content. Again, and you've got Patreon content as well that I linked.
I sure do.
You want to describe what you have going on there?
Yeah, so on Patreon this week is like I said, it's weird, but everything's gonna be a little delayed to get all my notes up there, but it's coming. Typically, I put all my notes up on Patreon, so you can not just the stuff on the whiteboard. There's usually extra. There's usually more. I do my top 5 favorite bets. This week so far, we've only got 2, so we need to find a couple of more. I do a Patreon parlay. Now, the Patreon parlay is cool because the base leg is usually a pretty safe, bit. And then I add an extra. The base can be like, it'll get you to right around even money. And then we got an extra leg, which gets a little riskier, and a degen leg for all you degenerates like me that are getting crazy. And you just use the profits from each to then play the next.
A nice progressive parlay scheme you got going. Nice.
And then, yeah, like I said, all that is on there, but you're also going to get random other stuff. Like when an Invicta card comes up, I crush it when Invicta comes out, but I don't do breakdowns for it because how many people are probably watching that? But I crush it on Invicta, so sometimes I'll throw those out there on the Patreon, stuff like that.
Nice, man. Yeah, I encourage you guys to go check it out. This guy does a really good job of breaking down fights and putting in a really easy to understand format as well. So getting access to his early content and thoughts and all the different leagues that very few content creators have time to do. Make sure you check that out. We got Dylan in the chat saying, let's go, Pat. We are back. Shady in the building. And we got Jesse Q saying, what's up, fellas? Good to have you guys all in here. Hope you guys crushed it if you had any Dana White Contender Series action. But we can get going on the first prelim of the night, starting all the way at the bottom. A fight that Tyler had mentioned as not being the most exciting one, but it is at the women's bantamweight division. We've got Tamiris Vidal taking on a debuting fighter named Montserrat Rendon. So don't confuse her with Montserrat Ruiz, which is what I initially thought I was reading. But Montserrat Rendon is only 5-0 in her professional endeavor so far. She does have 2 amateur bouts she's won as well, but she's actually getting a late start to her UFC career. She's 34 years old, making a debut, doesn't have a whole lot of experience, Mexican-born fighter, and I gotta say, I mean, she is like a lifelong athlete in other sports. I think maybe even a triathlete or marathon runner, something like that. I saw she recently got her BJJ brown belt, but when you watch this girl striking, Tyler, I mean, it looks very, very slow, looks very telegraphed. The level of competition she's facing is not the best. And she's even going to, Montserrat has a split decision in her last bout against Brittany Cloudy and Invicta. She's got another split decision in Kabate a couple fights ago in 2021. So even against some of these lower level girls, she's going to split decision. And some of them I think could have gone against her here. So her 5-0 record professionally could look a lot worse if those splits didn't go her way. She takes on Tamiris Vidal, who's 25 years old. So she's got the youth advantage here. More of a physical, stout fighter, I would say. And she wants to get the fight to the mat and employ her own BJJ game. So we could have a battle on the mat. On the feet, I think Vidal is probably the better striker, more diverse, but she can be hit as well. So where the money line is at, I think it's a bit wide, minus 225 for Tamiris Vidal, who is 1-0 in the UFC. You've got Montserrat Rendon plus 190, the underdog. I'm going to pick Vidal to win. I think she's the much better fighter optically, but I think the value might just fall on Rendon here. I think this should be a lot closer. What do you think on this first fight?
So here's the thing about this fight. Like, I don't remember what her name was the other day. It was the Paris. Yes, I do. Cornell. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
So I blind bet Cornell because she was, I was like, oh yeah, she's fighting Edwards or whatever. I was like, Edwards isn't that good. We got an underdog against Edwards. I'm just going to blind bet it, whatever. That one worked out for me, regardless of what anybody thinks about the scores. That one worked out for me.
Yes.
I kind of did the same thing here because Tamiris Vidal is terrible. And I understand that she's powerful. She hits pretty hard, but she's not good anywhere. Her best win is actually a fight where she was getting totally wrecked the whole fight and only won by DQ, and that was against Eileen Perez. like is it a win? I mean, I get the fight could have been stopped 3 times, but it wasn't. She got the DQ win. I don't know
she
what
got punched in
the
she got punched the knee in the vagina like 3 times in that fight.
She did. And she's not like, so she's supposed to be good at jiu-jitsu, but she was just getting wrecked on the ground in that matchup. So, you know, and she is powerful, I'll give her that, but she's sloppy. She can be hit, and her cardio's poor too. So like, I'm going to take Rendon for the fact that, first off, probably nobody else is, but I'm going to take her for the fact that I think Vidal is going to, her cardio is going to fall apart. And even if Rendon isn't very good, you know, like they're both bad. And we just saw it tonight on the Contender Series. Sometimes, even if you're the better fighter, if your cardio falls off, you're helpless. And I'm going to hope that Rendon has a little bit more killer instinct than Luciano did in the Contender Series matchup today. And you know what? We're going Rendon. And I if I get it wrong, whatever. So be it.
I wanted to join you on this. I think you're on the value side. I really do, because I think this should be a lot closer than Tamir's Vidal nearing what the odds makers would imply at like 70%. We're getting close to that, and I think that's ridiculous. When you spelled it out, one of the big things here is Rendon does have probably the better cardio. Her striking is not that great. She's a little bit old to be making improvements there. I think Vidal could make better improvements, but Rendon, she doesn't have great striking, but she's got great output, you know, so she could just be the busier fighter, just throwing out 1s and 2s. And as long as she stays on her feet in this fight, I think she'll be solid. You know, Vidal sometimes she plays the bully and she'll just bum rush you against the cage, try to take you to the mat, and then she jumps on submissions, you know, pretty aggressively. I like that. Seen her jump guillotine pretty strongly, jump for the heel hook she got back. I think that was an Invicta, if memory serves me correct. So, no, that was the LFA. I'm sorry. She got a heel hook in round 2 there. She was pretty much mauling that girl, Braga, on the mat. You know, we saw the potential for her to get even like a knee to the body on Ramona Pascal. But, I mean, it's Ramona Pascal. So what do you really take with that? She went like 0-3 in the league. So, yeah, I mean, from a money line perspective, I like the pick there. And I want to join you on that for reasons that will become obvious as this fight card progresses and I give out my picks for this one. I think this is an underdog out of any of them that can come through. So I got to go with Vidal. You're going with Rendon. You're probably going to win this bet. Out of all these female fights on this card, I think this is one where the dog is the most live. So
definitely.
Yeah, Pink Floyd in the building saying Dream Team Duo. Yeah, man, we could play superhero duo in your neighborhood, man. That'd be fun. Clean up the mean streets of Pink Floyd's neighborhood. Shady doing the right thing here, not being degenerate with these low-level Tuesday night fights. But, hey, undefeated either way. Dylan definitely agrees. Justin calling the Vidal decision or Vidal stoppage. Yeah, I mean, do you think this goes over then if you're calling a Rendon, Montserrat Rendon victory? Do you think it goes over more than that?
If Rendon does get a finish, it'll have to be late, and I think it'll just kind of be one of those where it's Vidal is too exhausted to do anything and just falls apart. So probably over, but it might cut it close.
Yeah. I think the most dangerous woman here is definitely Vidal, but I could see this going. I could see her having a strong round 1. Rendon survives, and then we just get a sloppy, who knows what's going to happen round 2, round 3. So I think you're right there. Yeah, Pink Floyd actually he's saying the same thing that, this should be easy money like the Jocelyn Edwards fight was. But, hey, who won that fight in the end? It was not the favorite there. Wasn't quite easy money. It was Tyler with the victory. Justin wanting to root for Fialho. We'll get to that fight a little bit later. Yeah, that's another fight that could be iffy, man. There's a lot of front-loaded fighters in this card where they could get the job done in round 1, have a very strong start to the front half of the fight, or they could fall apart and the underdog could come through. Hey, no problem, man. I'm glad you got connected to Dale from Punch List MMA. Great dude. I know he's taking a break off the social medias now, but yeah, anybody that wants to hear high-quality MMA podcasts and banter, make sure you subscribe to Punch List MMA. Really good work there. But yeah, we can move on to the next women's fight, which I think is a little bit higher level, to be honest, at the women's strawweight division. We've got Mizuki Inoue returning after 3 years off to take on Hannah Goldy. So I think Inoue is a very good fighter. She's just been off for a torn ACL and rehabbing that, but she's still very young, and she is currently 1-1 in the UFC at this point. She had a split decision against Yanan Wu in her debut. Not very impressive, but she did have a more impressive in a loss decision loss to Amanda Lemos right before she left back in August of 2020. So, yeah, I mean, 29 years old, so still got room to improve. The 3 years off couldn't have been a total loss. She takes on Hannah Goldy, who I think is just a much worse fighter than her in this spot, which as a result, we're getting a minus 319 favorite price tag on Inoue, despite this long layoff. Hannah Goldy plus 269. I'll let you start this one off, man. Do you think that the odds makers have this one correct?
So, okay. So because it's my video, my only video this week is going to be this. I'm going to give a little bit of insight on both here. So for Hannah Goldy, she is going to be the more bodied up. You know, she's going to be a little bulkier, a little stronger probably. She's got a good forward pressure style and can work her boxing pretty well. And her grappling's not terrible. For Inoue, she's probably the better grappler, skill for skill. And on the feet, she's probably going to have just a little bit more volume at range. But as it gets closer, she's going to probably succumb to the in-tight style of Goldy as far as that goes. So when you look at this matchup here, you got to take into account that Goldy is not coming off of an ACL injury, so that goes in her favor as well. That should draw the odds a little closer. I think the odds are a bit wide, but I think that Inoue should be better everywhere other than just like in the pocket slinging bombs, because Goldy is like, she's pretty built, right? So she can hit pretty hard. Because of the layoff, because of the coming off the ACL injury or whatever, and we don't really know what she's going to look like at -3, whatever it is, you can't really bet in a way. She's not safe for a parlay. Goldy definitely has like a shot if Inoue's not the same as she was when she left, but Inoue should win. Like, you know, if she's pretty close to what she was when she left, she should win this fight, no problem. But that layoff makes me just want to say, you know what, just pass on this one. It's not worth it. And then you can't really look at the over like you would in a lot of, you know, strawweight matchups where you're like, oh yeah, over. Because Inoue's finish rate's actually pretty high. Not so much in the UFC, but she's pretty high in her finish rate overall. So it's just total pass for me, but Inoue would be the pick.
Yeah, I do think that she's just a much better. If you watch these two strike side by side, and my God, like, you know, from Inoue, you've got speed, you've got lateral movement, you've got head movement, you've got fakes and feints, and just things you would expect at the UFC level. Hannah Goldy, you're getting none of that. You know, her head is just on the center line to be hit. She kind of has, you know, those big buff arms that are really stiff. And what's that one fight that I saw from Hannah Goldy a while back? Her and Diana Belbita. What an ugly fight that was, striking-wise, dude. Like, neither of them had very much striking defense to speak of in all 15 minutes. It was just whoever was landing first was getting the better of the exchange. Wild, man. And it's been a while since we've seen Hannah Goldy, right? It's been since July of 2022. So she's on a bit of a layoff after getting knocked out in London by Molly McCann. So coming off of a loss there, her only win in the UFC, she's 1-3 in the league. It's over Emily Whitmire by that round one armbar. So I don't see Mizuki anyway getting beat by something like that. Her awareness on the ground is pretty good. Her experience outside the UFC is really good as well. She's been a pro since she was 16. Like you mentioned, she's got a lot of finishes as a grappler on her record. She even has a 5-round decision loss in Invicta. I think that was a title fight against Virna Jandiroba, where it says it was a split decision. No world that was a split. You know, there was even an audible gasp in the arena when they called the split. It was a 49-46 for Virna Jandiroba, who out wrestled her the entire time. How a judge arose at that other decision, I don't understand. But so that's probably the only thing that if a strong wrestler or a strong striker faces Inoue, we see that she succumbs to that. But somebody as simple as Hannah Goldy, this should be a layup in her return here. So I don't know. I really want to do something betting-wise with this fight, but I think I'm going to err on the side of caution here. I see Kristen asking about the under 2.5. What are we looking at here for that one? We're looking at the under.
Odds are good, maybe.
Plus 240. Just because of how long it's been since we've seen Inoue, I think she's going to come back a little bit tentative, and I think this does stretch out to decision here, but I wouldn't touch this one. I would just wait and see, you know, but this is a big disparity in skill sets. So if you really don't believe in Hannah Goldy being UFC level, maybe you could go for it. But I think the finish, it's like Inoue, like twisting her knee or something, like is the way that she loses this fight. Like how else does she lose?
But you got to think about that. Maybe she's, you know, overcompensating for her recovered ACL. Yeah. Could have an issue. Maybe I'm grasping at straws here. I don't know. I think Inoue should win, but some people after they come back from an ACL, it's just not right.
Right. So Hopefully training has gone well for her. What's going on, Easy? How you doing? Pink Floyd saying, yeah, Mizuki Inoue is young and been fighting her whole life. Don't see a layoff make her so bad she loses to Hannah. Yeah, I think so too. This is one of the ones where as soon as I saw reminded myself how bad Hannah Goldy was, I was just like, there's no way I can pick her here. If you believe in the OnlyFans fade, this is a perfect spot to go against her here. What's going on, Luke Betya? How you doing? Tyler, did you get a new background? This looks like a room. Yeah, man, this is not only a room, but speaking of the OnlyFans angle, man, yeah, are you doing some business in that hotel room on the side here?
Right, doing business. Actually, there's a nice view out the window.
Oh my God.
There you go.
That's some mood lighting.
It is the mood. That's the courtyard or whatever it is out there.
That's nice. You big jobber. Yeah, that's exactly what I am, Lou. What are you going to do about it? Oh, man. Well, we can move on to something more exciting here. We covered these first two fights. I am excited for Mizuki Inoue to come back, though. She looked very good when she left the scene in 2020, and she's still young enough to improve. But we move on to somebody with potentially less potential here with Jake Collier taking on Muhammad Usman at heavyweight, the sloppy heavyweight fight of the week. I love it. I hate the cards that don't have these bouts. But as far as betting on it, the lines are as such. We have Jake Collier plus 120. The underdog Muhammad Usman moved back down to minus 140. This line is tightening up on BetOnline. I mean, which way are we going to go with this one, Tyler? Like, this is just a fight I just don't want anything to do with because Muhammad Usman has got that fight-ending power at any second. He flashed that against Zach Pauga before. He's got the wrestling to take down Jake Collier, and I think he does have a better gas tank. Like, I don't think anything about Usman's game is impressive or elite, but Jake Collier, I mean, this guy, this blown-up middleweight here has gone since 2020 when he came to the heavyweight division. He's gone, 2-4 in the heavyweight division. His only wins are over Chase Sherman by submission and John Vellante by decision. So, I mean, if you can't beat those two guys, you just shouldn't even be in the league. Since then, he's been on a 3-fight losing streak. So I got to go with Muhammad Usman here. I think that especially towards the later part of the fight, Collier starts off strong in round 1 with a really good output. He slows down in rounds 2 and rounds 3. And at that point, Usman's going to ragdoll this guy in the mat and probably win a boring decision. So how do you feel about this one? Is there any faith in the underdog here?
Okay, so in this one here, so when I look at it, so Jake Collier, he's basically just a really fat middleweight, right? He's not He's not a heavyweight. He's a fat middleweight, but he's fighting a heavyweight, so that's what we're going to go with here. So for that, Jake Collier, he's got good striking volume. He moves pretty well for just a fat guy. He moves pretty well, does a good job there. His grappling, he stays active when he's on the bottom, so it's not like he's just going to lay there and get, just give up the entire round once he gets taken down. But I don't know that he's going to be able to get back up if he does get taken down. He'll look for something, but whatever. So Jake Collier, basically what he has going for him is just being active. For Usman, he doesn't have anything that's super impressive, but he does have power. Like you said, he's got lights out power. He's got pretty good wrestling, and he does have, they call him the motor for a reason. He's got good cardio. So I think the steady Usman should be able to get this win, and I actually bet him today. So there we go. Usman's the pick.
I don't hate it, dude. I mean, he's got a good team around him. Obviously, his brother, the former champion. Some of that has to have rubbed off on him here. But, this is another one of those fights where we've got a front-loaded fighter in Jake Collier, who I think will do his best work in round 1 as usual and then fades as the fight goes on. And Jake Collier's not like – he's got busy hands, but he's not that defensively responsible. He could get clipped in the early going of this fight as well. Could you see him getting knocked out early by Mo Usman?
Definitely could. And, and that's the thing. Like, it makes me feel better betting Usman because Collier doesn't really have stopping power either. Like, when he hits you, like, he's hit plenty of guys and they're not just going to sleep. So, yeah, I mean, Usman could knock him out, but I don't see Collier getting the knockout.
Especially after watching the Martin Budai fight in Collier's last performance where he got a decision loss. Like, he started off strong against Budai, and then by the end of the fight, Collier was so tired, mouth breathing, and Budai, who has barely wrestled anybody at the UFC level, was able to take him down pretty much by accident and dominate him, going to mount, start raining down ground and pound to end that fight. So, if he's not even trying and he gets it done, I mean, Mo Usman's going to go in there and just kind of ragdoll him, I think. So
obesity.
Yeah, man. So I think you're on the right page here. And this line is tightening up, so I like this more at minus 140. Didn't it balloon up to somewhere around like minus 170 earlier in the week too?
I think so. I think I got him around minus 150 something, which wish I would have got him at minus 140, but yeah, I think he was up like minus 170 at one point. I saw it come down to 150 something, and I took it then. But
yeah, I'm looking at the line, the history on BetOnline. It ballooned all the way up to minus 185, and then it's coming. Yeah, now it's coming back down. So I like it a lot more where it's at. I guess people are taking the shot on Collier here. Whenever these low-level heavyweight fights get too much in one direction, people will just automatically take the dog money, and they're usually not wrong to do so. But I think the better athlete, without question, here is Muhammad Usman, as unimpressive as he's looked so far. But what do you think his future is going to be in the UFC? Like, how far does he go?
Well, I think he beats all the really low level guys. I think he's gonna beat like the Josh Parisians. He's gonna beat obviously he's gonna beat Collier. He's gonna beat all those guys that like basically just lose, and then the only wins they get are against each other. He's gonna beat all of them. But then depends on how he develops, because he isn't. I mean, he started with what, football, right? Was it football?
Yeah,
some ball sport, and he started with that, and then he now is an MMA. So he's got a late start to the game. He's definitely got the physique for heavyweight. He's not one of those just like fat heavyweights, so he has that going for him. I don't see him breaking up through the top 5, top 10 or anything like that. Like I think he would have a really hard time with a guy like Andrei Arlovsky, who isn't that good anymore, but just stays steady.
Until Arlovsky's maybe 65, I think he could probably outpoint Mo Usman to decision every time.
I've made so much money just betting on Arlovsky by decision. It's unreal. Just
keep doing it. Yeah, keep doing it.
Every time he fights, it's just gotta try it.
Could we see a Chris Barnett versus Mo Usman? Is that in the cards?
That'd be interesting. I don't know who I'd pick in that. I'd have to think about that one for a bit. That'd be hard.
I forgot.
But
you know who Collier was supposed to fight in this one? It was Walter Walker, who's Johnny Walker's brother, who's undefeated. Right. I think that guy's undefeated anyways. 11-0.
Free win.
Yeah, another guy who's like younger than Johnny Walker by a good margin, but the same height as him and at heavyweight. I can't wait to see that guy fight. That would have been amazing.
Probably he would have murdered Collier.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the next fight for Mo Usman. Maybe they'll just match him up against Walker's brother.
That'd be wild. I don't think they will, because I think the UFC want Usman to do well, so they want him to keep winning because he has the Usman last name, so that automatically just gives him the rub. And then they also probably don't want Johnny Walker's brother to lose because, well,
that's true.
Gives him the rub automatically being Johnny Walker's brother. So I feel like they're going to try to keep them side by side for a while.
That's true. So we're on the same side of that one. I haven't got there on a bet yet, but I do like where you're coming from. Obviously, fading Fat Collier. Daticus Testicles, very awesome name. Good to see you in here, along with you, John. Good to see you as well. And Fat Jake looks less fat. Is he doing okay? Did he have a good camp? Maybe he just took a dump or something and just, that'll probably drop like 5 pounds right there. What's going on, MMA Premium? Good to see you. And we can move on to the next fight, which is, again, this is going up in entertainment value, I'd say, as the fight card goes on. Jacob Malkoun versus Cody Brundage at middleweight. But this is another one of those spots where you've got Brundage riding a massive losing streak. 3 fights in a row this guy has lost. And his most unimpressive one was his last fight against Cedricus Dumas at UFC Jacksonville, where he lost a decision to Cedricus Dumas, a fight that wasn't supposed to go the scorecards either way. And Cody Brundage basically found himself jumping for guillotines nonstop, gassing out in the fight. And Dumas just held that top position until he got the decision win. We got on the other side of the coin, Jacob Malkoun's been on a pretty long layoff ever since he beat Nick Maximoff last October. So almost a year he's been laid off now. But I got to say, we're seeing a massive favorite price tag on Malkoun, minus 550, plus 400 for Cody Brundage. And you usually see numbers like that when there's an overlapping skill set, right? Cody Brundage's best skill set in this fight is going to be his wrestling. Jacob Malkoun, that's his best skill set as well. But who can do it against higher level competition and who can do it for the entirety of a 15-minute fight? That's going to be Jacob Malkoun. So I think he's going to clearly be able to employ that game plan and win this fight most of the time. But is there not some value on Cody Brundage's money line here, or at least maybe his early finish, perhaps?
I don't see it. I wouldn't play it. Not after that last fight. No, I have zero faith in Brundage. And I feel bad saying that because, like,
Right.
he's won before. But, like, man, after that, he didn't even look like he wanted to be a fighter anymore. It was bad.
Yeah, it's not somebody you want to put any faith in. But it's funny because it's early victories, like against a guy like who was it here? Against Dolce-Lungiambula was just he got hurt early and jumped guillotine. So it's almost like that's what his reflexes go to now, like to win fights. Like he jumped guillotine on Rodolfo Vieira, for God's sake. You know what I mean? It just wasn't
the worst idea.
Yeah, the fight IQ's not there, which also leads me to believe that the cardio isn't there. A lot of his finishes, if not all of them, are under the 1.5 round mark. So unless you're playing like a small sprinkle, a lottery ticket shot on that plus 1,600 Brundage round 1 KO or Brundage in round 1, something like that. But do you think there's finishing potential for Jacob Malkoun down the stretch of the fight?
If he gets the finish, it'd probably have to be from like an exhaustion type of thing. Because Malkoun, like, he's not really a big damage dealer, right? I mean, he's going to just get takedowns. You're going to get back up. He's going to get a takedown. You're going to get back up. And he's going to do that a lot, which makes him like, I don't know if you play DraftKings like DFS at all, but like Malkoun's like the guy you want on your plays because the dude just gets a crap load of takedowns and takedowns count for a lot of points. So it's like a Cody Durden, a guy that always breaks the whole slate there. But Malkoun, I mean, he's not really a big finisher, right? So I think Malkoun's probably just going to take him down, whatever, over and over. And if he does get the finish, it's just going to be an exhaustion finish, which is totally possible because Brundage is like, I have two big negatives written down on my notes for Brundage. The first one is fight IQ and the second one is cardio. So, I mean, it could happen.
I'll add a third one, too. The durability doesn't seem to be there either. You know, he gets clipped and knocked down quite a bit. Even against Mikhailo Zaitchik, those ground and pound hammer fists, they put him out cold. Like, it knocked his lights out just from those short-range shots. So, yeah, I don't think all of this stuff goes hand in hand as just being not reliable for Brundage here. And if you want to even look at that side and say, okay, but Brundage at plus 400, we could count on him early in this fight to get a knockout. Jacob Malkoun has fought some guys that have that early power, right? AJ Dobson's a very powerful striker early. Mm-hmm. So is Abdul Razak Al Hassan. He was able to skate past those power threats and get the takedowns going for most of the fight. So I like the cardio. I like everything about this guy. It's just the price tag's a little much, but maybe you could play him by decision.
That might be a play actually. And by decision. Or if you're playing the more cautious side, third round decision type of thing, you can get that prop some places. I don't know what books, but you can get it on some of them. People play it all the time, I guess. But yeah, if you play like Malkoun late is the only finish, and that'd be an exhaustion finish because I just don't see him causing that much damage to Brundage because he doesn't do damage.
And they know it too. Like even on BetOnline right now, the only sportsbook I see with these exact round props, Jacob Malkoun round 3 plus 800. It's like that's really short for a round 3 finish prop for a guy who doesn't have a lot of round 3 finishes, right? I mean, so they're basically they're getting really sharp with these guys that gas early and get finished a lot. They're really getting sharp with making their opponents' finish props really short. So hopefully some other books will be slower to that. But yeah, man, this is gonna be.
When it's one like that where it's just so obvious what the spot on is, like for example, a great one. It was the Darius Flowers versus Jake Matthews fight. I bet Jake Matthews round 2 submission, like specifically, and it was like plus 600 was all.
Oh God, yeah,
and it's because they knew, but I mean I took it, but they knew.
That's gross.
The way it is, man.
If Lou Betya's in here, he's going to throw up hearing those numbers for a method and round prep.
Hey, I got it right, so I'll take the money, but still.
Yeah. What's up, Jenna Marie? Good to see you in here. No need. You're always on time. No matter how late you are on the numbers, you're always right on time. Never bet Brundage again. Zach is totally in agreement here. What's up, Shady? What's Prince of Bishop? Sorry, shout out to Patrick helping these Make-A-Wish kids' dreams come true. He's got more hair than that. It's growing back. His wish was for more hair. It was great. It's coming through.
They got me on some like Bosley or whatever.
Jesse Q, agreeing with you. He's actually calling it out. Round 3 decision. That's one of Mushroom's favorite ways to play fights that have shifty cardio in the end there. So. Yeah, we're on the same side of that one. Haven't found anything I want to do with that fight yet, though. I only have a few bets, and I've got a couple money lines later in the card. I've got one prop as well that we still have to get to. But we can move on to a 170-pound bout between Tim Means and Andre Fialho. Another one of these spots here, Tyler, where we've got a front-loaded fighter in Andre Fialho who does the large majority of his finishes, I believe all of them are under the 1.5 round mark. Out of this guy's wins, he's got 15 wins, 2 by decision, 13 knockouts. 12 of those knockouts are in round 1. And that goes across a pretty long career for this guy who's only 29 years old, Andre Fialho, but he's fought in like every major promotion, LFA, PFL, Bellator. And now he's 2-4 in the UFC, riding a 3-fight losing streak, as is Tim Means. He's on the 3-fight losing streak as well. So one of these guys is going to be leaving the organization most likely. One of them will stay. We've got a 10-year age gap here. Tim Means is now 39 years old. I mean, any fight could be his last, which is never something I want to back in a fighter. But both guys decently sized for the weight class. The durability of Tim Means was always something that you could put in the column of him, like one of his attributes as a fighter. But lately, that's just not been the case. He's been dropped in round 1 of all of his last 3 fights. Kevin Holland was able to club and sub him in round 2. Max Griffin dropped him in round 1. He eventually had to just settle for that decision. And Alex Morono was able to hurt him and submit him in round 2. So, yeah, I don't know. I got to go with Andre Fialho here to land a big shot. But what happens if the timer goes past 1.5 rounds? You know, we've seen Andre Fialho kind of fall apart in those spots. But you got to admit, Andre Fialho, as bad as he has looked in some spots, he's been finished a lot of the time, but it's by Joaquin Buckley, Muslim Salikov. Jake Matthews might be the worst guy he's lost to, you know? So I don't know. Even Chris Curtis and Chidi Njokuani back in Bellator and the PFL. So it's all heavy hitters that are knocking him out. Do you think Tim Means has got a chance to pull off this upset if it goes into round 2, round 3?
So, yeah, he definitely does have a chance. So, like, when I look at this fight, actually, it was hard for me to pick because I'm also kind of biased. I'm a big fan of Andre Fialho. I cashed on him huge in his first 2 fights in the UFC. Just from his, previous fights outside the UFC, I was like, man, this guy's he's gonna smoke the Baeza and who was the other one? It doesn't matter. The first 2 guys he fought. But I rode
Cameron Van Camp.
Yes, Van Camp. Yes, good call. I rode the train a little too long though, and then I remember I bet on him in the Jake Matthews fight. Oh gosh, that hurt to watch. So Tim Means does have a shot because Tim Means is. So he doesn't have like super hard one-shot power, but man, are those elbows nasty. And if you get in the clinch with him, I think he could really tear him up. So I think Fialho probably is the side because he's a very powerful striker. He's going to come forward. He's always doing something with that lead hand, whether he's working the jab, he's working that lead hook, which the lead hook is definitely his best weapon. So he's always doing something with that lead hand. But that also leaves him open because when you're always doing something with the lead hand, that means it's not back here protecting your face. And if anybody's going to hit you, Tim Means, that crafty veteran, can land it. So I think there's probably a way to play both sides, honestly. I think if you played Fialho, who's the favorite, round 1 knockout, which is his best path to victory, you could probably also just play Tim Means money line because if it goes over out of the first round, Tim Means is probably pretty live for a finish. So maybe that's the way to play it. I haven't played it like that, but maybe that's the way to play it. I might do that. But yeah, Fialho is going to be my official pick, just because I mean that round 1 upside for him is pretty good.
Yeah, and outside of getting knocked out by spinning wheel kicks of Muslim Salikov that he just couldn't get out of the way of, that big right hand from Jake Matthews and more punches against the cage, the head kick of Joaquin Buckley. I mean, the one fight that did impress me in the UFC from Fialho in a loss was the Michel Pereira fight in his debut. I think it was a short notice debut as well. He looked terrible in a loss, but I mean, he looked like he wasn't going to be able to answer the call to the round 2, round 3. He did work through that fatigue pretty well in that fight and stayed conscious. So there is some ability for him to, stay on his feet and keep moving through round 2, round 3 and not get KO'd. But I don't know. Recently, it's not been looking good for him. He trains at a good camp too. He's at Killcliff, right? So he's a Killcliff guy in his prime at 29 years old. I don't know what this guy's deal is. Is it a durability thing? Is it a cardio thing? What do you think his flaw really is here?
I mean, like you said, he fought a lot of real heavy hitters. So, I mean,
yeah,
you can only take those shots for so long. Those heavy hitters, like if you get cracked and knocked out, every time you get knocked out, it just gets easier and easier and easier to get knocked out. And that's something that even just like at the gym with your buddies, the other fighters and stuff, after a while you're like, oh, that's so-and-so, he's been knocked out a few too many times. And then in sparring, even like when you just hit him with a jab, all of a sudden he's like rattled and you're like, what was that? That was like half, that wasn't even half, you know what I mean? And the guys have just been knocked out too many times. It just happens.
Yeah. Who do you think gets the better of it close range early on? Because Tim Means is a real clinch bully. He loves to get in close these days and just kind of hang out on the perimeter of the octagon, dirty box and things like that. Do you think that's going to be a dangerous spot for Tim Means early?
If he gets to clinch range, no. Tim Means has got him clinch range. That dude is so deadly with those elbows in the clinch. But if it's just outside, like that bit before where you're at the long and then you're like working towards that close range,
where you got nowhere to go.
Before they get there, it could be a real problem for Means. But once they get into that clinch, Means is deadly. That dude's elbows are just so nasty. He'll cut you up pretty quick. Makes it look like he has a straight razor to you.
Yeah, he's had a crazy career, man, at both lightweight and now at welterweight. 14 wins, 12 losses, one no contest in the UFC. So it's about time, man. Any fight could be his last here. I think in a loss, he probably does retire, probably does get cut. So, but the same could be said for Andre Fialho at this point, man. He's exciting at least. Always in fights that his last 5 fights have not seen the scorecards. The UFC loves that. Obviously, we saw the return of Daniel Da Silva last week after being 0-4 in the UFC. So they do like excitement, but probably a loser leaves town type of matchup here.
What's the line on fight doesn't go to decision? It's probably like minus 300 or better, right?
Yeah, it's probably huge because we got an over under at 1.5. The under is at plus 110. Yep.
What?
Fight doesn't go. You know what? Fight doesn't go to the distance is minus 275. I just think it's potentially one-sided, right? Like I see probably a must-finish situation for Fialho, but Tim Means, does he? I feel like he could just pull off the decision in round 2, round 3. No,
he could. Do you see a guy like Tim Means just kind of like resting on his like, oh, I'm ahead. I can just kind of chill, take it easy. I don't think so.
Unless he takes him down like he did against Max Griffin. Like I could see that happening. And Fialho just ends up on bottom for the majority of the end of the fight.
That's true. I was thinking of a striking match. You got a good point there. You could take him down and lay on him.
I could see something like that. So, over under 1.5 is a clear spot for Fialho because like I said at the top, I mean, all of his wins, 13 of his 15 wins are under 1.5 rounds, mostly in round 1. So they're going to give him that line. They're probably expecting an early knockout. As am I. I think Fialho does get that knockout early here. So, you didn't say you had any betting action on this fight yet?
I don't. If I do, it'll probably be playing both sides because.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
Fialho probably gets it in the first round.
Justin Villegas following the trend of how Tim Means has been losing lately by submission. Yeah, unlikely for Fialho, but hey, that could be a sneaky look if it's a huge number.
Yeah, it's got to be plus 3,000, right?
It's got to be something crazy, hopefully. A lot of people are liking Tim Means as a dog here. Yeah, I mean, this is a potential one for me. Like, I think it's very flimsy. I don't even think I want to trust Fialho with my money, but there's a lot of intangibles going his way with this one. Just his 10 years of youth. And I just feel like this guy, we could be overlooking him a bit, right? Because he's been facing a lot of really good guys. But I got to have somebody at plus money if they're on a 3-fight losing streak all by finish. So I'll probably lay off of this one. But we can move on to a pretty intriguing fight up next at bantamweight, one of the best weight classes in the UFC. We got Miles Johns, 13-2 record, taking on Dan Argueta, 9-1 as a professional. And this is a spot where both guys do have a wrestling background. Miles Johns, we don't really see it all that often. Defensively, he's very good in the striking and the grappling, but kind of low output, more of a power hitter, and a guy who's been in some pretty competitive fights in the UFC against not the greatest competition. So Miles Johns is a guy I expected a lot from, and he's kind of been somewhat of a letdown, getting club and subbed a couple of fights ago against John Castaneda, and of course his other loss was against Mario Batista by knockout. But Dan Argueta, a guy who's kind of exceeded expectations, right? He comes in on short notice against what was his name again? I forgot already.
Damon Jackson.
Damon Jackson up a weight class on short notice at 145. Loses that. He couldn't get his wrestling game going because of the bigger, stronger man in Jackson. But he goes in there against Nick Aguirre, just wrestles that guy, I think like 10 minutes out of 15 in a controlled position. Goes in there against Ronnie Lawrence and ragdolls him around a couple months ago. And if it wasn't for Keith Peterson, making him tap, actually manually making him tap and then calling the fight off himself, we probably would have seen potentially a submission win for Dan Argueta there, if not a decision win. So I'm impressed with Dan Argueta. He looks like he's really coming along. He's got a 5-0 record in the LFA before his UFC run. His aggression looks very good. What do you think about his striking? Are you impressed with that? Because I feel like that could be the next puzzle piece to solve.
Argueta's striking's terrible. I mean, he's got good volume, but he gets hit, and he doesn't really have any power to it either. It's just volume and pressure, which works for him because he's trying to get to the takedown. But his striking's definitely is the worst striker of these two. But he does have more volume, and sometimes the worst striker can win in the eyes of the judges with volume. So as far as striking, gosh, that's not nice. I might have just talked myself into thinking Argueta's going to win in the striking. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I thought Argueta needs wrestling to go.
Yeah, the issue is it's like Miles Johns is the much better striker and actually a very good counter striker. He's very hard to hit, but does he have enough output in the striking to actually win? What if he gets out wrestled for 2.5 minutes, the back end of a round? Does he have enough volume in his striking to win the first half of the round and steal that round in a decision? I'm finding myself on the Dan Argueta side. I just think he's going to have more success in the wrestling. What do you believe in Miles Johns' ability to stay on his feet in this fight?
So here's the thing. So Miles Johns obviously is better as far as like overall. He's got the more skills, right? But Argueta's probably the better wrestler overall. But I think that Johns has a good enough wrestling game that he can keep it on the feet enough to get the win. But I don't trust his output enough to bet him. But I am picking Miles Johns to win. I do think Miles Johns is going to get it done. Somehow the guy just keeps winning. When I every time I see his record, it's 13-2. Every time I see his record, I'm like, really? Is that it? 13-2? It catches me off guard because, I mean, he's only lost twice, and for whatever reason in my head, like a guy that has that low of volume should be losing a lot of fights, but somehow he's not. It's the counter striking, like you said. So, and he's got good power with that counter striking. So I don't know. And Dan Argueta doesn't really move his head, so. I'm gonna take Miles Johns to get it done.
I think what the issue is he's been expected to do a lot better by the odds in a lot of fights. He's been a decently sized favorite over a lot of guys like Vince Morales, and he makes it close. He makes it actually kind of competitive. His Anderson Dos Santos fight, the Kevin Natividad fight. I mean, these are things where sometimes he's pulling off. It might be competitive in rounds 1 or rounds 2, whether he wins those rounds or not. And he's kind of relying on putting a stamp on it in the end of the fight and getting those round 3 finishes. So, I remember having money on Miles Johns against Vince Morales, and it was a little bit more of a sweat than I thought it was going to be in those spots. So sometimes those feel like losses, even though they do come through and get the W. Sometimes they're expected to do a lot better. He did have that canceled bout where he pulled out against Tony Barcelos. I'm not quite sure what that was. I think it was an injury. But yeah, you're going with the underdog here. The money line is pretty close in this one. Plus 150 for Johns, who's got more experience and better competition faced. Dan Argueta, the minus 175 favorite. Probably people drawing how good he looked against Ronnie Lawrence last time as, really pumping up that money line there. And I'm going to agree with it. I think Dan Argueta does win just based off the wrestling threat. And I don't trust Miles Johns to get that knockout in this spot. But, hey, we could crazier things have happened. I'm struggling to pull the trigger on a guy like Miles Johns here.
So, do you so Argueta probably isn't getting a finish? Am I right? Do you think he gets the finish over Johns or no?
Submission, I could see
potentially. Johns has pretty good wrestling though, doesn't he? Am I wrong?
He's supposed to, but so far it's like been kind of untested in the UFC. Is my problem with it,
Yeah, because from what I can tell, he's got good wrestling. He just doesn't use it. Like even in my notes, it says like he just chooses not to use it. So
he's like a mini Yoel Romero, like in his in looks and in strategy. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're taking Argueta, are you going to play like I guess you said you haven't pulled the trigger on him yet? Okay, but if you were, would you bet him straight or would you bet him by like submission or decision or whatever?
I'd bet his money line. I think it's close enough where I just wouldn't. I'm not a big risk taker with the props, and even if I would take a prop, I would play like 3/4 of a unit on his money line and then the other quarter unit on the prop. Right, that way I'm not losing out if I don't get the prop right.
That's smart.
You know what I mean? So yeah, because I just hate like if I take somebody by submission and they don't get it, they just win by decision. I'm like, man, I got the pick right, I didn't get the method right, so I'd like to play both if I do so. But for this one, I still got faith in Miles Johns, but I think Argueta could make the better improvements here, man. He's been doing pretty well, and he looks he looked faster against Ronnie Lawrence than he did in his previous performances. He's kind of holding it down for Mike Winklejohn at Jackson Wink, right? Like one of the few people that are still doing well out of that camp. We'll see.
Yeah, he looks like he improved quite a bit, but it also could have been like Ronnie Lawrence just said he's just going to quit MMA for a while. So like maybe it was a Ronnie Lawrence thing. So I don't know. Yeah, retired / got cut today. That's right. So like it makes me wonder, like, is Argueta, because like he also lost to Tertios on the Ultimate Fighter, and then we saw how bad Tertios did. So like, man, I don't know.
Dude, monster on Tapology. I never log my picks on there, but yeah, are you part of BC Dave's group? I know he's got a pretty competitive group on there.
To join, I don't even know how to find a group. I'm so bad at this stuff. I don't even know how to find the groups. So like everybody's like, oh yeah, request to join it, but like on the search bar, it's like you can search for fighters, events, or whatever. I'm like, he's not one of those. I don't know. So I'm not in it, but whatever.
Damn it, Ronnie Lawrence getting cut after Keith Peterson's drunken mistake. That's horrible.
Well, it sounds like it was like staph infection stuff that's caused him to like retire or whatever.
Wow, how filthy. But we can move on. We're both on opposite sides of that one, but not too convicted in that. I could see Miles Johns coming through, get that upset. But this one probably has people split this week as well. Another close money line at featherweight. We got Charles Jourdain taking on Ricardo Ramos. I think there's a lot of similarities between these two guys. Both BJJ black belts, both grapple a bit, but both have very flashy striking as well. And both have solid records, 14-6 and 1 draw for Jourdain. We got Ricardo Ramos 16-4. Jourdain has been the much busier fighter. Ricardo Ramos, I know he's coming off of getting his bout was canceled for missing like 9 pounds on the scales. Something was got to be horribly wrong in that fight, whether an injury or otherwise, maybe some sort of medical reason that happened. But his bout got canceled against Austin Lingo, which would have been a pretty easy fight for him, in my opinion. A pretty diverse skill set, and unlike Charles Jourdain, Ricardo Ramos actually does use his wrestling to get the fight to the mat, where he can use his BJJ. Charles Jourdain, you're usually just seeing him pulling guillotines or jumping on like club and sub opportunities. But the busier striker probably going to be Charles Jourdain here. So it's a battle between, do you think Jourdain can stay on his feet and keep on pumping out that output, making this a dirty fight? Or can Ricardo Ramos kind of stay on the back foot, be elusive, and keep it a clean distance striking affair, mix in some grappling? How do you think this one will play out?
So I think Ramos wins round 1 at a pretty high percentage because he's a pretty fast starter. And like you said, he does use his wrestling, which not a lot of jiu-jitsu guys do. He has good timing on his takedown entries, which I like a lot. So the takedowns, early in the fight, round 1, striking's pretty good as well, but he does spin more than I would like to see out of a guy that, in the UFC level, like when you spin that much, bad things happen. So, for Ramos, though, I do think he wins round 1 at a pretty high percentage, but it's round 2 and 3 that I don't so much think he wins. Round 3 is almost certainly Charles Jourdain, and I think round 2 is probably going to go to him as well. So, because Ramos, he doesn't fall apart with his cardio, but he does slow way down. It's not like he's like in there dead, but his output drops drastically after the first round. So I'm gonna lean Jourdain, but like it's one of those where there's no confidence in it. Short of something crazy, I think we just get a really fun fight for 3 rounds, and the judges decide who they like better.
Yeah, it's one of these spots, like I said at the top, I think the bookies are on this one, -140 for Charles Jourdain, +120 for Ricardo Ramos. I think that's just about correct, honestly. That's the way I would cap this fight. Yeah, I don't see a lot of value any other way, but I call the tempo to be just the way that you spoke it, right? I mean, Charles Jourdain's the round 3 king, usually puts a stamp on it and sprints to the finish line, which you love to see, and optically that looks very good in the eyes of the judges. 27 years old for Jourdain. He can still make some improvements as far as like his takedown defense goes. I could see that happening, and the level of competition he's fought a bit more. Like I like his win over Shane Burgos. That's a pretty good win. The Ricardo Ramos win over Bill Algeo. That's probably his best win. So they're both in a good spot where they can meet each other here at the crossroads. And I think it is going to be Charles Jourdain that's going to be pressing the action with a lot more output. If you look at his average striking stats in his UFC career so far, where he's got 11 fights in the UFC, still keeping up a really high average of almost 6 significant strikes landed per minute, getting hit far less in return. Whereas Ricardo Ramos, less than 4 per minute. So less output on the numbers. I know some of that is because we see some grappling from Ricardo Ramos, but the only guys that are beating Ramos so far are the guys that can actually out-wrestle him, right? Guys like Tukagov, Who else? Lerone Murphy, kind of the same thing. And Saeed just was able to outstrike him early, as Saeed normally does. But I'm on your side here. I think Jourdain gets it done. Just what's stopping me from taking the what is it about Charles Jourdain? Is it the fact that he might lose round one or might get out wrestled? Why do I not want to trust him with my money here?
So I kind of had that same thought too. And like in the past, it was because Jourdain is the type of fighter that would rather have a fun fight than win a fight. However, maybe in his last fight, albeit against someone who just totally shit the bed in Kron Gracie, Jourdain showed that he wasn't just out there trying to have a fun fight in that one. He was more reserved, picked his spots better, played a smart game plan rather than just going out there trying to have fun. So maybe we'll see a more well thought out Jourdain for the rest of his career. And if so, great. If we see that in this fight, I'll be more likely to trust him later. But gosh, for a while there, like you'd see him come up and you're like, oh, this is gonna be a great fight. I don't think he cares if he wins or loses. He just wants to have fun. And he would say that in the interviews, kind of like he wouldn't say it directly, like I don't care if I win, but he would basically say that it was more important to him to have a fun, like a exciting fight for the crowd than to actually win the fight, which is not something you want when you're betting on a person to win the fight. If you're betting on him to have fight of the night, I think you got a smart bet right here. But if you're betting on him to win the fight, that's scary. So that's probably where your reservations are at, because that's where mine are.
No, I found another one that I totally forgot about. It's the decision record, too. I always find it odd to bet on guys when he's 2 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw in decision results, probably for reasons that you just mentioned. Whereas Ricardo Ramos, 5-1 in decisions. But again, these level of competition that they fought so far, not the greatest. I think this is definitely the highest, outside of Bill Algeo and the losses he's had. I think this will be the best fighter as far as output goes that Ricardo Ramos has faced in a while. Danny Chavez, mostly just a boxer. Tukagov beat him. Bill Algeo, very high-level opponent there. Like I said, probably his best win. But as far as the wins, Jordy Newsome, Luis Garagori, Kyung-Ho Kang a while back by a split decision. Some of these are just not really that impressive or relevant to the division right now. So should be a fun fight. I don't feel like I need to get involved in this one, but glad we find ourselves on the same side of it. We can move on to the welterweight division. Brian Battle takes on AJ Fletcher at 170. This seems to be like Twitter's favorite fighter this week is Brian Battle. I see a lot of people with bets on him, and I don't disagree. I think he's got a very good shot at winning this fight. But this is one of those archetypes of fights we've been talking about, Tyler, where it's like AJ Fletcher probably has a good shot of winning in round 1. But after that, his gas tank has proven to fall apart time and time again. Brian Battle, a guy who doesn't really impress me in any one area, but his game is pretty well-rounded. He's got really high striking output, and he can go over 3 rounds without question here. So I got to take Brian Battle. Where the odds are at now, minus 170 Brian Battle, plus 145 AJ Fletcher. I haven't gotten there on Battle yet, but I do like the number on him. So I expect he just wins the decision down the stretch of this fight. Do you have any more faith in AJ Fletcher than I do?
I have way less faith, actually, because you said that he has a chance to get it done in the first round. Brian Battle is incredibly durable. Like really durable. Some of the shots that dude ate when he fought Tresean Gore, which I'm really low on Tresean Gore, don't get me wrong, but Gore hits hard, and Battle just ate it. No big deal. Ate that one really big shot from Fakhretdinov, which I hate that Fakhretdinov won that fight because for whatever reason he's one of those fighters I just don't like. I think it's because the way he shoots his takedowns are horrible, and I hate that he keeps getting them. But anyway. Brian Battle should win this fight at a very high clip. I have no idea why he's only minus 170. I would probably line this fight at that was bad, minus like 340 or something like that. Brian Battle should win. He has a 10-inch reach advantage with a super high volume. He's durable as all heck. Like, sure, his striking defense isn't great, but like that's a 10-inch gap. Well, I guess 5 in each arm, you would assume. Given shoulder width, whatever. Either way, he's got a very long range that he can hit Fletcher where Fletcher can't hit him. And that's going to be a problem for Fletcher. So Fletcher has to close the gap, get inside of that, eat some shots on the way in because you know that Battle's throwing those shots. Then he has to connect on Battle with a shot hard enough to put him down, not just hit him. Because otherwise you hit him and he just keeps throwing at you because he has really good output, really good durability. And then say he gets the takedown. Say Fletcher gets the takedown. Battle is good on the ground. He submitted Petrowski, everybody's favorite tough fighter, which I can't stand him either. There you go. Brian Battle. That's why I like Brian Battle. He fights all the guys that I don't like. But either way. So Battle, I think, should win this fight if you run this fight 100 times, I think Battle wins probably 89% of them, 88% of them.
All right. I feel you.
He just should be better pretty much everywhere other than like takedown offense.
So that's true what Daniel's saying right here. Dana said that Grasso Valentina 3 is on. Is that true or is that rumor?
I didn't hear anything about it. I heard that.
Hey, I'm responding to you. Calm down, man. We're breaking down fights. I'll get to you, Daniel. You're not going unseen here. I'll wait until in between fights sometimes. But no, is that you didn't hear anything about that?
No. The only thing I heard was that Valentina's having hand surgery. So if it is on, it's going to be a bit because she broke her hand in the fight. I don't know how severe the surgery is, but.
What did you think? Let's go off topic for a second. Let's put this battle Fletcher fight on pause. What'd you think about that decision?
I thought at the end of the fight it was clear Valentina won 3 rounds, and I know so many people were going to give me shit for that, but
in the moment I thought so too. I was about a gallon of margarita deep at the time, and I had a lot of money on Grasso as well. So I'm usually pessimistic when it goes to the scorecards, but I thought it was 3-2 for Valentina for sure.
I thought it was clear. She obviously won round 1. I mean, there's no doubt. And then I believe I had her winning the rounds 3 and 4 as well. She clearly won round 1 and 3, from my opinion. And round 4, I thought she won it. I watching it live. I know a lot of people now are like, "Oh, round 4 is the swing round." But watching it live, I was like, "Oh, it's definitely a Valentina round." So then going into round 5, I was like, "She just has to survive this round or whatever." And she was looking darn good in that round up until the last minute and a half. So I thought it was a clear Valentina win. But what do I know?
Yeah, I thought a lot of those rounds are subjective, but what I did not like about Grasso's performance is she's relying on big moments to just pull out of her ass to get those rounds to swing her way, whereas Valentina was winning a lot of the minutes, looked a lot better than I thought she would for sure. So, yeah, I was happy at the end of it just to get a push for that one and a draw for sure. But, yeah, people love Battle because most of this card is crazy close matchups. Yeah, I agree with you, man. This is one that you could probably be a little bit more confident in. AJ Fletcher, I like the guy's style. I do. I like a good wrestle boxing style, but
for sure,
man, when you're fighting Angelusa and the TKO doesn't go your way, and then all of a sudden you just have nothing left. The switch that's flipped in his system, and you just said, "Okay, I'm just going to lay on my back here and just get pounded out the rest of the fight, lose the decision." Not something I want to back with my money, but you're saying that this should be a much bigger favor for Battle. Why isn't it then? Is it because of the wrestling upside of AJ Fletcher, and we saw Battle get controlled by Renat? Is that what's keeping this line?
Maybe that's it's kind of got me worried because I already bet Battle and now I'm kind of worried about it because the line isn't moving. And I thought I bet Battle weeks ago, in addition to also again at the start of this week on Sunday or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I thought the line would be getting crazy here because Battle should be the clear favorite. But yeah, it must be somebody on Fletcher because of the Fakhretdinov loss. It's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard to recover from that when you're controlled that much on the mat. It's hard to get that reputation off of you that you just don't have any wrestling at all. But it looks like Renat does a lot better than we thought he was. So,
well, he has good top control. He has really good top control. And the thing that makes me wonder why that would make the odds like this is because Battle didn't just lay there and get beat on. He didn't even take a ton of damage. He took some damage, but he was constantly making Renat fight to keep him down rather than just being a grappling dummy. So I don't know. I'm really surprised that the odds aren't. It makes me wonder, is Battle hurt or something? Why are these odds not more? He should be a huge favorite.
Yeah, I might get there. I'm trying to debate if I should get to bet on this one or not, but we'll see if I add to it. Like I said, I'm really lacking bets this week that I like, but not every card's going to be an exciting one from a betting perspective. Might just sit back and watch a lot of these fights, but some of my bets come in the later fights, including this next one at women's strawweight, Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson-Gomez, the rematch that we didn't really see coming here. I mean, it's only a couple of years since these two last fought, and they headlined a 5-round bout at the Apex in 2021, where Marina Rodriguez won pretty clearly 4 rounds to 1. only getting taken down by Waterson-Gomez in one of those rounds. Maybe round 4 it was. I can't quite remember. But Rodriguez at that time was kind of on the way up, right? She was taking on a sort of like a veteran gatekeeper in Michelle Waterson. But since then, Marina Rodriguez, she's kind of got bested in a few spots. She lost to Amanda Lemos by that round 3 TKO. She got out-wrestled and controlled by Virna Jandiroba as well. So she's on a 2-fight losing streak, whereas we have Michelle Waterson. She's on a massive 3-fight losing streak, including, the what started that off was against Marina Rodriguez. So right off the bat, you're seeing a lot more activity from Marina Rodriguez, right? She's already fought Mackenzie Dern and Yan Xiaonan, both victories. Michelle Waterson, a lot more time in between her performances here. So, I mean, why should this be any different than the first time they fought? Like, it's a 3-round fight, so potentially if there is some control time, say Michelle Waterson gets that round 4 that she had 2 years ago and gets the control time, that could be a third of the fight. That could be substantial in this one, but I got to believe that Marina Rodriguez can stay on her feet, use her bigger, longer striking weapons, and just outpoint Waterson-Gomez, which oddly enough, I mean, there's a lot more fight miles on Waterson at this point, but she's only like a few months or so older than Marina Rodriguez, right? She's only like a year older than her. We're looking at 36 for Rodriguez, 37 for Waterson-Gomez. So obviously they seem like in fight years a lot different in age, but yeah, I mean, what do you think? You think Marina Rodriguez just has a repeat performance here?
So probably, and here's why. Because for Waterson-Gomez, she has beautiful kicks, right? Her kicks are fantastic. Does a good job with them. They can actually cause some damage when they land. But the thing is, Rodriguez is going to want to come in and do the boxing, right? So when she wants to come in and use her boxing, well, for her to get into range, she has to get inside of the kicking range. And those like long, like karate style side kicks, front kicks, things like that, those don't really land at boxing range. I mean, and if they do, they're just a push. And a push, it's not causing any damage, right? So I think when Rodriguez is able to get inside into boxing range, I don't think Waterson has an answer because she can't hit hard enough with her hands to back up Rodriguez, and she just becomes a punching bag anytime that distance is crossed. So her only real path here is to either keep it completely at kicking range, which is going to be hard for her, but keep it completely at kicking range, or get takedowns, which she then has to get takedowns from kicking range because the second that she gets into boxing range, she's getting pieced up on the feet because Rodriguez has way better boxing. So I think it makes sense that Rodriguez gets the win. But, I could see Waterson stealing around.
Yeah, and we're looking at this kind of skeptically in terms of not just the winner, but in terms of Marina Rodriguez being a minus 290 favorite, Michelle Waterson plus 245, the underdog. It makes sense a little bit just because, I mean, we've seen Rodriguez beat her not too much in the distant past here, but I like the Marina Rodriguez by decision prop here because we're never really seeing Waterson get finished, and Marina Rodriguez, we're not seeing her really starching anybody in the UFC, right? So,
isn't the line on that pretty bad though?
I don't think it's that bad. I think it's
that was like minus 180 or something.
I put a bet on it at like minus 150, I believe. 1 unit at minus 150. Let's see if we still can get that. I don't think it's horrible, just in terms of I don't normally like to bet that way just because anything could happen here, especially as these women get older and older. But yeah, Marina Rodriguez by points minus 180. So it moved a bit on Bet Online. Yeah. I bet when that opens up on DraftKings, they'll have a softer line closer to minus 150. I like that spot because we haven't seen Waterson finished. I think she had like one corner stoppage back in like 2008. It's been a long time that she's lost by knockout. She's been submitted a couple of times, but we're not seeing Rodriguez really going for that aspect of her game at all, right? She's either getting those clinch weapons to knock people out, or in the UFC, she's really not beating anybody besides Amanda Hebos back in 2021. So, yeah, I mean, I've been impressed with Marina Rodriguez. She's only losing to big power punchers like Amanda Lemos, or she's losing to a really strong wrestler like Carla Esparza, Virna Jandiroba. Even Cynthia Calvillo gave her a bit of trouble, but that ended up being a draw. So, yeah, I kind of agree with this money line, to be honest with you. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, Michelle Waterson getting some takedown control time, that could mean more in a 3-round fight. That's my only worry in this one.
Yeah, and not only that, but like at minus 300, that's a lot to play on. It's just a lot to lay on the fact that like if she gets taken down in 2 rounds, it's gone. So like, man, I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't play it at minus 300, but if like minus 150 decision, I don't mind that at all. If it was still at that, I might consider it, but I did. But then again, I parlayed up the over 2.5 at like some ridiculous odds.
Okay.
So if you parlay up the over 2.5, and then you also think that Rodriguez wins it at a pretty high clip, like it makes sense just to play the decision. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll talk myself into the decision.
All right. Well, I'm glad you have faith in this going over, so that'll cash both of ours. I like that. Piggybacking on the last part of the fight. What's up, my guy Nandalal in the chat? What's going on, brothers? He's saying AJ Fletcher could probably death wish charge like Gabe Green did and survive that hook exchange that knocked out Gabe Green very early. That could happen. We're seeing a lot of love in the chat. Pink Floyd for AJ Fletcher with the upset. Same with Nora Ashley in here as well. Daniel's on Rodriguez and Fletcher as well. So there's a lot of love in the chat for AJ Fletcher here, man. I don't know. I like the guy's game, but just that cardio, he's a real jacked up guy. He's a guy that could be at like super lightweight. Like he's a little bit small for welterweight, too big for lightweight. If there was like that in-between division, maybe that would be something for him here, but we'll see. Got to see improvements from him. I think both guys, though, AJ Fletcher and Brian Battle, I think have a lot more potential than they've shown us so far in the UFC.
For sure.
We'll see where they go.
Fletcher didn't have like a 10-inch reach disadvantage, I'd be like, come on, like maybe he's got a shot, but 10 inches?
People wondering, Prince of Mischief wondering if she is a hottie. Daz Files in the building says judges never seem to think she is. So, yeah, hopefully not on Saturday either. I wouldn't mind seeing her get another loss here, 4 in a row, call it a career and cash our tickets here. But we can move on to the co-main event. I think she should. I mean, what, 4 losses? What's she going to do?
Yeah, but you got to imagine her contract's pretty big. Like, you got to imagine she's getting like $400K just to show up at least, probably more.
What weight class is this? 115? Yeah, I mean, I guess they could use her. That's not the biggest division. I don't know. They keep on bringing people like these bums off the Contender Series that she could probably get the wins over those people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, shoot, I'd ride it out as long as I could at that. Like, I'd fight pretty much anybody in the world for $400K, and she's fighting people that like probably aren't going to knock her out.
Yeah, that's the problem with a salary like that. I wonder if you have to keep on facing people that you got to play the gatekeeper role at that price, So you're going to keep on facing people that have potential. I don't know, man. It's been a long career. She's been a pro since like 2005 or something crazy. 2007.
Right. You got to imagine the UFC doesn't want her to win at that rate,
No, absolutely not. But yeah, man. Shout out to all 50 of you guys in the chat. Smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you check the description to Tyler138 MMA. If you guys have not subscribed to his channel, you are missing out greatly. This guy has got a fast growing channel, and it's due to all of the content this guy puts out every week, man. Early content to the Contender Series, Bellator content. He does the Invicta stuff, maybe on his Patreon as well. So check out all of the services he's got to offer, man. I appreciate his time, especially in the middle of a work trip. This guy's donating his knowledge to us here. So thank you so much, Tyler. Awesome to break these down with you. We move into a very exciting co-main event at 145. We've got Bryce Mitchell taking on Dan Ige, the classic grappler versus striker matchup, but not totally, right? Like Bryce Mitchell, that's really his game plan, is to go in there and just put the mitts on people, get the takedown, and search for a submission. But Dan Ige is a lot more well-rounded. The guy's known to be a very hard-hitting striker in the UFC, but he's got a wrestling background. He's got a BJJ black belt, I believe, as well. So the guy's not a fish out of water on the mat, although that's where he suffered in the UFC at the higher level. So it's going to be a question of, can Bryce Mitchell avoid that power, get his game plan going early and often in each round, and potentially just ride out control time to a finish. I don't know if I see Bryce Mitchell finishing Dan Ige, even with the submission skills he has, just because few have really done that to Dan Ige, right? He's been finished a total number of 0 times in his professional career. So I do like Bryce Mitchell, 15-1, his only loss professionally coming in his last fight against Ilya Topuria. That basically was a club and sub, right? He got punched by a big hook, a big uppercut, and arm triangled out back in December. But I like Bryce Mitchell's physicality in this spot. I think he will employ his game plan. He's not a guy who's going to stand there and really wait too long to dive for takedowns out in the open space, and tie up the legs, keep you on the mat. Once you're taken down by him, you're pretty much pinned down to the ground. So you better hope that it's later in the round. But Bryce will take every chance. Like, he'll go right through all of your strikes and just go for that takedown. So I like him in this spot. I took a bet on him for 2 units at minus 185. But Danny Ige is no joke, man. Do you think Danny Ige could find his moment here?
I mean, he's got a shot, but because he's definitely the better striker. But when I think about other better strikers outside of Topuria that Bryce Mitchell's fought, like look at, was it Barbosa? I mean, right?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Yeah.
I mean, he dropped him.
Yeah, knocked him down.
I mean, because the threat of the wrestling from Bryce Mitchell is pretty heavy. Because when that guy gets you on the mat, it's not like he just it's not like he just wrestles like he shoots the double leg, gets the takedown, and lays there. He's looking for finishes, right? He's looking for submissions, and then if he's not getting that submission, you aren't going anywhere. So for a guy like Bryce Mitchell, that threat of the wrestling is huge, which opens up his striking, which obviously it did against Barbosa. So for me, I think Mitchell has the chance to actually land on the feet against Ige. He's going to be a little bit bigger as well, a little bit longer and rangier. He's going to have the I guess I don't know about reach, but he's taller. I do know he's taller, which punching. So that's another thing. I say it all the time on my channel. People are probably sick at me saying it, but like when you're punching up and when you're punching down, it makes a much bigger difference in that punch. It comes faster when you're punching down than it does when you're going up, and you're not going to fatigue as fast. When you're punching up at somebody, your shoulders get fatigued really bad. If you don't believe me, next time you're at your local gym, go to the heavy bag and start punching up like that rather than like you normally would when you're punching the bag, and you're going to see how much faster their shoulders start to feel like they're just on fire. All that acid. That's what Ige has to do.
Freaking gravity, Tyler. Goddamn
right?
gravity.
Right? So because of the gravity, I think that Mitchell actually has a shot to land like on the feet, get a few shots on Ige. But something I think that Ige has going for him, he does have that really good knockdown power. The problem, though, he doesn't seem to have like lights out power. He's gotten some knockouts, but they're not usually just like one hit, boom. He's got a couple, but not a ton. He gets a lot more knockdowns than just one-shot knockouts. So I think Bryce Mitchell can eat 1 or 2 of them if he has to in order to get the takedowns. I think that's the problem for Ige, especially in a 3-round fight where he won't have as much time to land that big bomb. I think Bryce Mitchell gets it done, so I like him quite a bit.
I got a question for you here. We got Prince of Mischief asking, why is it called 138? Is it the body count or is it the area code of your mom's house? Which one? It's gotta be one of these two.
That's funny. It's actually just my favorite number. I think originally it stems from an old Misfits song, and then like when I was a kid, I'm still a big Misfits fan. So when I was a kid, I was like, all right, I love this song, whatever, and I was like, you know what, that's my favorite number, and I just stuck with it, and here I am, friggin' 31 years old, and 138 is the number that we have.
Nice. So it's from the Misfits. All right, that's great. That makes a lot more sense, man. But thought I'd answer that question for the chat. There was a heated debate whether it was the area code of your mom's house or whether it was the body count of Tyler himself. Both likely. Body count's more likely. Absolutely. But I agree with everything you said there. What do you think about the kicking game from Bryce Mitchell? Do you think that's an effective tool, or what? Are you impressed by that? Because he throws it all the time.
He does, and he doesn't have bad kicks either. It's kind of like you see with a lot of those, like, you see it a lot from those, like, Dagestani wrestlers, right, that have, like, they're pretty much a grappler, but for whatever reason, at like, complete distance, they have really pretty kicks. Like, their kicks look really clean, nice, flush, but, like, as soon as you get out of kicking range, it's just takedown right there. And that's kind of like Bryce Mitchell has that same kind of style where you can throw those really nice kicks from range because, like, he doesn't care if you try to take him down. What are you going to do? Take him down? That's not a good move. He's going to reverse the position, get on top, and do what he needs to do, or just sub you from the bottom if he needs to. But yeah, so I think that's why guys like that can throw those kicks, just not caring willy nilly, and that's why they look so nice when they throw them. So yeah, I think his kicking game is a possibility.
Yeah, you see that strategy from all those shoot to box guys too. That just they don't
true.
care if they end up on the mat at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, I got to go with Mitchell here. I think. What do you think about all the outside of the cage stuff? Do you weigh any consideration of that narrative and his performance here? Like all of his fruit trees getting burned down, just the even last time with his fight and his loss against Topuria, he blamed it on kind of being sick or having a cold or something. he pulled out of the Evloev fight, I think maybe for an injury as well. I mean, it's very inconsistent appearances from Bryce Mitchell, even at such a young age. Does that bother you at all here?
So it does a little. The fruit trees thing, though, I totally understand that because I have a mulberry tree at my home, and I love mulberries. They're great. They're delicious. If somebody cut down my mulberry tree or like burn it, I would be irate. In fact, I'd be at their house and I'd be causing mischief real fast. So like I understand because they don't just grow overnight. Like, you know what I mean? Or like I got a walnut tree. You know how many years it takes to grow a walnut tree to the point that it actually produces walnuts? I totally understand his pain. So I get him on that. But like the like, oh, I had the flu thing, like that does worry me a bit. Like maybe he did, and if he did have the flu, that explains a lot. But maybe he didn't, and he's just, like you get that. But pulling out of the Evloev fight, which surprised me too, because I thought he was going to beat Evloev, because Evloev's just his submission defense isn't there, and I know, and we finally got to see that. I said it before it happened because I was saying it in the Mitchell fight, but then Diego Lopez decided to take advantage of that, and if he wasn't such a nice freaking guy, he would have just snapped that joint right there and called it a day. Because that's what I would have done, especially with a few seconds left in your huge moment, short notice, getting into UFC. You got this dude's freaking leg bent back. You can break it right there, call it a day, and get the win. If you snap the leg in half, the ref's definitely jumping in. Doesn't do it. Golly. Break that leg, dude.
That was a scary fight. Man, yeah, we got Sean V in the building. What's up, Sean V? Saying Bryce's striking is pretty bad, though. Yeah, I just don't know if it's going to take place in that realm enough for him to really suffer there, right? Like, that's
drop Barbosa.
He did. Yeah, he has people so worried about that takedown offense. I just think if he can, it never takes him more than a minute in the round. When the round starts, it's no more than a minute. You can time it, and he gets that takedown. So I expect that to happen here in this one. What is up, River Rat in the building? What's going on, my friend? Good to see you. Always good to see you in the live chat. And man, we got a lot of people with the Ige love in the house saying he's being overlooked. Dazfile said that. Prince of Mischief says it. Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, where the money line is at, I mean, do you agree with this number, or do you think there is some value on Ige? Would you just take him by finish? What does an Ige decision look like?
So if Ige gets a decision, that means he has to stuff the takedowns, right? And could he stuff takedowns for 2 out of 3 rounds? Maybe. I don't see it. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know that he does, but maybe. Okay, let's say he does. That would be the only way he could really do it. He'd have to stuff the takedowns, and then he'd have to also crowd the distance to the point that he's always in range to be taken down, because he's not just if he's at full long range, Mitchell's going to be able to hit him before he can hit him, so he has to come in, right? Well, if he comes in, then he puts himself in danger of being taken down. The longer guy here is also the guy that wants to get the fight to the mat, which isn't usually the case, but it is in this one. So, with those like super long rangey kicks for Mitchell, like obviously you can't just sit there at kicking range against him, because he's going to be able to reach from that distance. Whereas Ige is going to have to get in tight, use his boxing, which he's not a big kicker anyway. Ige, he wants to use his boxing. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's tough because Ige is going to have to be able to stuff takedowns while also staying in boxing range, and that's going to be really tough for him to get a decision that way. A knockout would be more likely.
Yeah, then Gary, I agree with you. I think it's more finish dependent for Dan Ige here. Gary Freeman talking about a very important point. Dan Ige at Extreme Couture can't go against Coach Eric Nixick, who's been on fire recently, getting their champion in Strickland. So what's going on, UFO? Good to see you as well. Are you a lizard person? Are you under a heat lamp right now? No, but let's see here, man. Yeah, we can move on from this one. We find ourselves on the same side, but I don't disagree with the chat. I think Dan Ige is a super live underdog here. He's a very high-level fighter, which is what makes this such a fun fight. We'll see. Bryce Mitchell's going to keep on getting these steps up in competition, and we'll see how far Thug Nasty can go. But we can move on to the lightweight main event here between the 6 and 7 ranked lightweights. Rafael Fiziev taking on Mateusz Gamrot. Even more so of a striker versus grappler matchup here in this one, with Rafael Fiziev being the 12-2 Muay Thai world champion. He takes on the world champion submission grappler in the Polish Mateusz Gamrot. So both guys have been extremely impressive so far in the UFC. I'll start that off the bat, man. Like Rafael Fiziev, he's had some spots where maybe he's slowed down in fights, but recently in his spots against Rafael dos Anjos, in his spot against Brad Riddell, and in the spot even in a loss, a majority decision loss to Justin Gaethje. Super impressive in a loss there. High output strikes. And if it wasn't for the toughness of Gaethje, I don't think we would have seen Rafael Fiziev slow down. But he put everything he could into those knees, punches, kicks, and Gaethje ate all of it and kept moving forward. So even in a loss, I think that was a very impressive spot there. So Mateusz Gamrot, a guy who in his last 3 performances straight, he's been dropped in every single one against Sarukian, against Dariush, and against Jalen Turner. And in 2 of those, he became victorious. So coming off that split decision win to Jalen Turner earlier this year in March, that was a pretty impressive one because Jalen Turner's a beast, but it was the wrestling that was able to turn the tides of the fight and sway it in Mateusz Gamrot's favor. So the question for you, Tyler, is can Rafael Fiziev maintain this massively impressive takedown defense and stay on his feet? Or is Mateusz Gamrot going to get this fight down to the mat by shooting 10, 20 takedowns in the course of 15 minutes here? 25 minutes, excuse me.
Right. Okay, so this one's tough for me because I usually get the picks wrong, but I usually want to pick against both of these guys, and I've tried to fade them both in total 4 times, and it's only worked out for me 1 time, although I think it worked out for me 3 times and I got screwed. Maybe even 4, depending on who you ask. So I tried to fade Fiziev against Bobby Green. It was close. Fiziev won. Faded him against Justin Gaethje. I got that one right. On the Gamrot side, I tried to fade him against Sarukian, and Sarukian got robbed blind. He won that fight. I don't care what anybody says. He won that fight. Sarukian clearly won the fight. And then I tried to fade him against Turner. I think Turner won that fight as well. I'm also biased, but I think Turner won that fight as well.
Always going with the kickboxers, aren't you?
Right. That's the thing. Like, I'm more like, so I know I own a kickboxing studio. I'm more of a grappler. All right. If you were like, oh yeah, let's go see a fight or something. If somebody came in this hotel room right now and I was going to fight him, my goal is to get into the clinch. I'm a clinch guy. Once I get to the clinch, we'll go to the ground before I want to go back to striking range. So whatever. I'm a clinch guy though. But if we go to the ground, I'd be more happy than just standing there and trading, boxing combinations. It's not my go-to. So it's funny that I end up going that route. But either way, for this one, so Fiziev's obviously, or Fiziev, I guess if you say that. I don't know. Fiziev, we'll go with Fiziev. He's obviously the better striker. There's no question about it. He's clearly the better striker by a wide margin. He does a lot of things right. He does a couple of things I don't like, but he does a lot of things right. A couple of things in my notes that I want to point out. His speed of his strikes is fantastic, and I think it's going to be really tough for Gamrot to be able to deal with the speed coming back with those strikes. He's going to have a hard time getting out of the way of them, ducking under them, whatever he's got to do. He's going to have a hard time with that. He has pretty good movement, and his kicks in particular come when he's moving and he's switching his stances, and he can do well from either. And he can use those kicks from either side. I like that a lot about him. But one thing that I don't like about his striking is that, like, when he starts to get into a brawl, he just starts winging these wild hooks. And if there's one thing that Gamrot can do on the feet, it's make it into a brawl, because he wants to grapple, right? He's a grappler first and foremost. If Gamrot is going to be on the feet with Fiziev, what is he going to do? Well, it's going to probably make it a brawl, because that's just where he ends up. And when Fiziev starts throwing these wild hooks like he does, when that happens, we saw it against Gaethje, we saw it against Bobby Green, and that's why Bobby Green was able to start piecing him up in the 3rd round. That, and he also slowed down. But either way, I do think that there is some openings on the feet in that specific instance for Gamrot, but that's it on the feet. Now, when it comes to the grappling, obviously Gamrot's a better grappler. But the thing I do like from Fiziev, and I might be talking myself into Fiziev right here. I actually don't have a check mark on by either name right now, so I'm making my pick on live right here. I might be talking. Nice. I might talk myself out of it. But the thing that I like about Fiziev's takedown defense is that he sprawls into the clinch. Like, when he does his sprawl, he collects the opponent into the tie clinch on the way up. He doesn't sprawl and then get back to striking range. He goes that tie clinch, and that's a dangerous position for Gamrot to be in. Because in the tie clinch, you might be like, oh, he's in close range and get the takedown. But on the contrary, he's being controlled. So if he tries to get that takedown, he's eating knees, he's eating elbows, he's getting sidestepped and tossed down. Like in the clinch, if you got a good tie plum right there and you take your back leg and step out, evacuate the space, and you just guide the opponent's head right through there, it doesn't matter if they're stronger than you, more aggressive than you, they're gonna follow where that head goes, and you control them. So every time they try to move, you just evacuate that space and move them around like that. And Fiziev has that option here against Gamrot if he can sprawl from that first takedown, or at least a takedown. On the Gamrot side, though, Gamrot's got the volume of takedowns. He's going to just come forward with more and more takedowns than Fiziev's had to deal with in his career so far, especially at the UFC level. So Gamrot's going to come forward with these takedowns. He's not going to do much with them, and he's going to let you back up, but it's going to wear out somebody like Fiziev, who's slowed down in the past. He slowed down big against Bobby Green. We saw him in the third round against Bobby Green just eating shots to the point that like a lot of people thought it might have been a draw, because that third round definitely could have been a 10-8, which is how much volume he ate. So if he's going to slow it down like that in the third round against Bobby Green, we've got 5 rounds here to work. And I know Gamrot has slowed down in the past as well, but when he slows down, it's different because he's still shooting a high volume of takedowns. He's still coming forward with those. And like, even though he gets dropped in his fights, he bounces right back up and he comes back with volume on the feet, even if it's not the best. And it's not like his boxing is terrible. It's just when he's fighting against really high level strikers, when he's fighting, or like even clean strikers, guys like Fiziev, guys like Turner, guys like that, if they're the better striker, his like somewhat all right boxing doesn't look that good, but he makes up for it with the grappling. And gosh, it is really tough to pick against Gamrot in a 5-round fight with a guy that's faded by the third round.
That's the thing, man. It's like the 5 rounds, like who does that really emphasize, right? Does it emphasize the cardio? And he's got a lot of 5-round experience, even in KSW, you know, or does that emphasize the damage that potentially Fiziev could put on, you know? What's the pick, man? What's it going to be? I know we're going back and forth.
I'm going to have to go Gamrot for the value, I guess. We'll go the value play. I'm going to take Gamrot. I'm going to hate it the whole time. I want them both to lose, but they can't. Maybe we'll luck out.
Yeah, the money line started off a little bit light on Fiziev around that -130 mark. It went all the way up to like -170. It's come back down to -150 Fiziev, Gamrot at +130. The over 4.5 is at -130. What do you think about the over-unders? Is that a better way to play this if you are stuck? Yeah, that'll be a sweaty one, right?
Dude, yeah. Especially because, like, okay, I don't think Gamrot's getting to finish. So if he wins, I feel like Fiziev's going to, unless he's just dead. I feel like Fiziev's probably going to be able to hang in there, even if he's tired. Even when he was just getting wrecked by Bobby Green, it's not like he just, like, got so tired he fell over and just gave up. So I don't, and we're only got 10 more minutes, I guess, in this one. And when you're tired, that's a long time. But either way, I don't think he's just going to fall over and die. But Fiziev hits really hard. And if Gamrot's getting dropped in most of his fights like he is, how many times can you be dropped by Fiziev?
That's the thing, yeah.
God, I don't know. This is such a hard fight to pick.
Yeah, that's why I'm going what Gary Freeman's saying. I think Fiziev's going to spend a lot of the time in the early parts of the fight stuffing these, using those close range weapons that you mentioned. So going from the long range kicking game down to the boxing up close, the clinch knees that we saw Justin Gaethje somehow eat those knees up close. Don't know how he ate half of those strikes. I'm not sure Gamrot can do that here. So I think it is going to be the damage and the round defining moments for Fiziev. I did place a pretty solid 2.5 unit bet on him at -136. Like I said, the money line is coming back down. People are taking that Gamrot money. I don't blame them here, but I just think it's going to be Fiziev making those improvements to stay on the feet and just keep on doing what he's been doing in his fights here. I try not to hold those early spots like the Bobby Green fight you mentioned where he slowed down, because he comes right back and goes in a 5-round spot, his first one ever with RDA, and finishes him in round 5. So clearly his cardio is doing okay. I thought his cardio looked great in a high output effort against Justin Gaethje, where he really had to, try to finish the fight strong, even though he was getting his eyes swelled up. I thought that showed pretty good resolve. So, yeah, I'm betting on Fiziev to win here. I don't like this card from a betting perspective because I have not chosen any underdogs in this spot. I think the first fight of the night is the spot where I want to pick the underdog, but the eye test in that first fight against Rendon, I just can't do it, man. So
it's tough.
Horrible. I've been picking a lot of underdogs the past few cards, and some of them come through, some of them don't. Last week we only had one come through, aside from those that draw in the main event. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Ready for a break. Hopefully after the break week, we come back and there's underdogs running wild again in the Apex, but this week I just don't see it. But, yeah, man, we did it. All 11 fights we have gone through with the chat. Should be a fun fight card. Like I said, we had some low-level fights in the beginning, but they should be fun. I mean, how can you not enjoy Jake Collier or Muhammad Usman going at it at the Apex? That should be a good time. We got Tim Means, always a good, entertaining effort there. Even Cody Brundage, watching him pull guillotine after guillotine for 15 minutes. That should be fun too. So yeah, man. Any final thoughts on this card so far? I was happy to see you struggle with the main event on air,
dude. Yeah, that main event's wrong. I'm probably gonna get a lot of these wrong for the fact that I'm taking some underdogs that I don't know that I should be taking. But you know what? Whatever. We're gonna play the bet smart this week because last week was our first bad week in a long time. First bad week I've had since February. So that's a good
stretch, man. It's a good stretch. And
good stretch.
It's plus 450 on BetOnline right now.
Plus 450.
I don't see. I think it would be the accumulation of damage more than one big KO shot. I think maybe around two when he's got the most energy, but still has already done some damage in round one. Could see something like that. But overall,
maybe that's the play. Maybe you play Gamrot money line because that just covers your bases there, and he's already the underdog. And then you play Fiziev inside the distance. Because does he win a decision against Gamrot? I don't know. I think rounds 3, 4, 5 are going to be Gamrot controlling him. But
yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a sweat. I feel like this goes over, but it's going to be the sweat of the century. I don't want any part of.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can bet and I usually love betting overs because I'll sit there and I'll be like, okay, well there's only this many seconds left. Okay, there's another second gone, and I'll just be sitting there okay, it's another second gone. I bet the over in the Volkov Tuivasa fight the other day.
Yeah.
And gosh, I don't know if you were watching that, but that was a sweaty over. But I'm sitting there it's gonna be fine. We've only got to make it.
It's gonna be fine.
We're gonna be great.
Blood pressure through the roof.
He's tough. I'm and then you cheer when they're when it slows down or whatever. Oh my goodness, I don't know. But yeah, no, I couldn't bet the over in that, but that'd be tough. Yeah, that'd be tough.
I like that KO too, Daz. I like that one, but. Yeah, we have done it, man. I appreciate your time, Tyler, so much, especially on a work trip, reporting live from the Hyatt. Love it, man. Please shout out your content. Let the people know where they can find you. Like I said, all of your links are in the description, especially for that Patreon. So hopefully people will check out your services. Clearly, you know what you're talking about, and you can break this down. The owner of a gym, a guy who practices martial arts every day, as well as breaking down content. Let the people know.
Awesome. Yeah, so 138 MMA, if you didn't guess that by now, you can find me on YouTube, obviously, at 138 MMA. You can find me on Twitter, same name. Tapology, same name. And guess what? You can find me on patreon.com/138 MMA. Same thing. Now, on my channel right now, as you'll see, we just had Dana White's Contender Series. It ended up tonight. We went 3-1-1. We got the draw, obviously, that whatever. We missed on one underdog, but I hit on Daniel James Allen as an underdog where everybody told me I was stupid, but he hit and he made it look easy. So that's the kind of content you're getting over on my channel, 138 MMA. Also, Bellator 299 breakdown is up over there. All 21 fights, as absurd as that is, which is why I didn't get my UFC breakdown out this week, because that's 21 fights. You know how long that takes to tape study that? You don't. And that's why you don't do the videos for Bellator, because it sucks. Right. But I got it out on the channel, so you can watch that right now over on the channel. Don't forget to like that video because it's not doing super well right now, and I think that's because the Contender Series videos have drowned it out. So go watch my Bellator video. I appreciate it. Thanks, Patrick, for having me on. There's pretty much all my content.
Yes, sir, man. I completely co-sign with all of your work, man. It's been a pleasure watching your channel grow the past years. So, man, continued success. Can't wait to break down fights with you again. Everybody in the live chat, we've got one more week of UFC action before an unfortunate break week, which the content creators, we're going to like it, but I hate as a fan to not have fights for a Saturday. I'll be having withdrawals, but I wish all of you guys all the success. I'll be back in the next day or two to drop the best bets and props once I've finalized all the betting action. Good luck in all your action and enjoy UFC Fight Night Vegas 79, guys.